Hello, everyone, and welcome to our STEM School Label webinar. My name is Ivana, and I'm coordinating the STEM School Label, which is a Scientix service. Now, if you didn't hear about Scientix before, it is a community for science education in Europe, and you can find out more about it on our portal. I will share with you the link to it in a few minutes. Now, before we start, I would like you all to please sign the signature list that you can see here. So you can actually click on the link that you can see here in the presentation. And you can also click on the link that I will share with you in the chat. Now, this is just to make sure that all participants obtain the certificate after the webinar. Okay, so I've sent a message. In case someone is not able to see the chat, feel free to email me on this address that you can see here, and then I will see how we can help you. Now I will give you a minute to sign. Take your time. Again, if anyone is having any technical issues, you can write also in the chat or to the email here that you see. Now, sometimes also, if you're having any issues, I think that the easiest is to actually exit the meeting and re-enter. Also, it is recommended that you use the Microsoft Teams app just to avoid any technical issues that might appear, which seem to happen when actually joining via browsers. Okay, I see someone saying they couldn't find the link. I will share it then once again. You should be able to see it now in the chat. Okay, so while you are signing the form, I would like to continue. First, I would like to introduce Mario Muscat, an education officer for science at the Directorate for Learning and Assessment Programs for the Ministry of Education in Malta. Now, Mario, feel free to go ahead and say a few words.
Okay, hi, welcome everybody. As Ivana said, I'm Mario Muscat from the Science Center with the Ministry for Education in Malta. Besides, I'm also the national contact point for Scientix in Malta. I would like to welcome 3 Scientix ambassadors. They happen to come, all the 3 of them from Malta, Ms. Geraldine Sadni, Ms. Stephanie Maggipolis, and Ms. Sara Camilleri Dimek, and they're going to share their experience with us with regards to the Scientix STEM School Label. Definitely, they're going to talk about through their experience. So definitely, we all have to put our ears there and to pay attention to their presentation. Okay, Ms. Geraldine, the first.
Thank you, Mario. Good evening to all. As Mario said, I have been working on the Scientix School Label together with Sarah and Stephanie. We have mentored a number of schools, and today we will be sharing our experience how you can actually apply and get the Scientix, the STEM School Label. Okay, so first of all, when I started off in the project, I asked myself, what is exactly a STEM School Label? And A STEM school label is defined as a school which has a clear STEM strategy. Okay, a clear STEM strategy, but what does it entail? How will I know that I have a good strategy in place? And the STEM School Label portal really comes to play in helping us to answer all these questions. So as I said, when I started working on it and working with other schools asked me, but what constitutes a clear STEM strategy? How can I evaluate the STEM strategy that I have in place? Which are the criteria which I should use to evaluate my school STEM strategy against? If I don't have one in place or my school strategy is not up to scratch, how could I improve it? And that is exactly what the STEM School Label does. And its primary objective is to guide the school and provide it with a tool set against which you can evaluate the strategy that you have in place or you would like to set in place. Now, as a result of that, obviously, we will be enhancing the experience of our students in STEM subjects, as ultimately Scientix stands for science and its dissemination. Now, as I already referenced, we will see that mostly it relies on the self-assessment, but it does not just stop at self-assessment. Its value lies in the fact that the Scientix will guide you and provide you with the feedback that your school might need in order to enhance your strategy and get it up to scratch. Okay, let's see who can apply for the STEM school strategy. Well, mostly this STEM school label targets the lower secondary and upper secondary schools. However, in Malta, quite a number of primary schools have actually achieved the STEM school label. So the audience has been widened, and as you can see, it even applies to the primary school teachers, primary schools and their STEM strategies. I have also noticed that when you were registering, we had quite a number of from the audience which were actually are outside Europe. Well, good news, you still can apply. The only condition for you is when you are applying, any submissions that are made must be made in the English language. So you can still benefit from the experience and from the guidance of Scientix to achieve the label. Okay, in the beginning, I have already referenced and put out the question, what are the criteria that a school must have in place to have a good STEM strategy? And the work done by in writing this the protocol for this label takes into account a number of key areas, and all these key areas must be evaluated and assessed. So when you apply, you will be actually being assessed against these 7 key elements, and each key element is then further divided into a number of criteria. Okay, so the key elements, they are which the STEM school strategy looks into, mostly instruction, professionalization of the staff, the connections that the school has, not just with other schools or within the school itself, but with industries, with parents, with universities, even with the local communities. It also looks into the assessment. It gives when we're saying assessment, it really looks into the continuous assessment that the school offers, and even personalized assessment. Another important key element is the school leadership and the culture, and the cooperation between the SMT, the management team, and the staff, and the inclusive culture. Another key element is the school infrastructure, the access to technology, equipment, the high quality instruction materials that the teachers write, that the teachers provide, and there is quite a lot of material today shared on the internet, and how are we availing ourselves from such material, and as well as how the curriculum is implemented. As regards curriculum, the emphasis that is being made on the STEM topics, and not just having separate sciences, but it gives quite a lot of focus as well on the interdisciplinarity approach and the contextualization of STEM subjects in the students' everyday life. Now, how do you go about to apply and get the school label? Actually, it is a process which I will try to explain briefly, because then Sarah and Stephanie will be taking over and will be getting into the details and explaining to you, as I said, in much more detail. Okay, so principally, the first step is for you to register your school in the portal. Once you register your school, you need to appoint a school representative and school contributors. Now, you might ask me at this stage, what is the difference between a school representative and a school contributor? In my case, when I explained it to the schools that I was mentoring, usually a school representative was a member of the school management team that knows all the nitty-gritty that is taking place in the school. And he will be the person in charge with actually submitting the self-assessment report. On the other hand, the school contributors can only upload school practice evidence and case studies. Now, as I said, school practice evidence and case studies are important because you will be assessed, okay, against the evidence that you will present. And for you to upload the practice evidence and the case studies, it involves a reflection process, which will be aided because in the portal you will be having, you can draw inspiration from the gallery where some schools have had their practice evidence and case studies published. Okay, at this point I would like to tell you that in some cases some of the evidence that you present may be published. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. So, as I said, the school contributor and the school representatives are going to upload the evidence and the case studies. However, it is only the school contributor that can actually submit the self-assessment form. Now, besides presenting school practice evidence and case studies, you will get more points if you participate in the monthly forum and in the forums, and as well as in the monthly poll. So that's more points towards you for you to get the school label. Now, it is quite important for me to highlight that the school representative must have a declaration from the head of school that he gives his permission for the school to participate and is actually applying for the STEM School Label. So once you would have submitted the evidence and the case studies, then it is up to Scientix to assess what you have presented, and you will be awarded the label, as Stephanie and Sarah will explain in later on. And however, you will not just get the label itself, but Scientix will be providing you with a lot of feedback and an action plan. And that is an action plan coming from professionals, which at times we would need to pay for, but all this is free, okay? So that is the greatest advantage of this label, that you will be given professional advice how you can improve on your strategy, and obviously that is what one aims for. Okay. As I already pointed out, in order for you to present evidence and case studies, I would suggest that first of all you familiarize yourself with the portal, and in the portal you will have a gallery with evidence submitted and case studies submitted from other schools. So try to gain inspiration from the gallery itself, okay? And it's important also that you familiarize yourself with the checklist for the 21 STEM School Label criteria, okay, that I have already referenced myself to. So that's all from my side. I would like to pass on to Stephanie, who will going on to explain and give you quite some important hints how you can go about with the process.
Sorry, Stephanie, your microphone is not on.
Yes, indeed it is. Thank you, Ivana. Thank you, Geraldine, and good evening to everyone. As we are aware, STEM education is fundamental to our society, not only for current and future job opportunities, but also to upkeep our standard of living in the modern world. I think sometimes we take STEM for granted as such. So when considering the process of the STEM School Label, I see it as an opportunity for our schools to empower students and also to promote a love for STEM education. What we're doing in this section of the presentation is that we are going to look into some detail on how a school could organize for the process of getting the STEM School Label. Through the experience, as the others have been saying before me, that we went through in the pilot in Malta this year, some suggestions to give would be the following. First of all, as Geraldine was saying, ideally the school representative would involve a member of the senior leadership team in the application as such, because this would facilitate the process for your own school. Secondly, another idea besides what Geraldine was saying is that it would be quite practical, as the slide is also showing, that there is a common folder that is shared with the other STEM teachers at school using the school's online system. In fact, this would give the possibility to STEM teachers not only to feel part of the application process, but also to be able to give their own contribution with their own input, being able to upload any item that they deem appropriate as it happens during the scholastic year. What would be the benefit of that? As such, This would be really helpful for the person doing the application because it could enable that person to stagger the work involved in the application while becoming familiar with the information on the portal for the label. Eventually, therefore, that person could also upload the case studies and the school practical evidence for his own or her own school. On the portal, there are quite a number of checklists for each of the 7 key elements. We're seeing on the screen an exemplar for the criterion related to the assessment component. As you notice, there are 2 columns in this checklist. The first one is where you tick off that particular criterion is in progress. The second column shows that it has already been implemented. So that exercise would be useful not only as a self-assessment task on that particular criterion as a snapshot to showcase where the school stands, but also to inspire that member of the senior leadership team involved in this process on any weaknesses that could then be addressed within the school. How? And this could be done when planning or when organizing professional development sessions in the school. We can never emphasize enough the importance of submitting school practice evidence and case studies in all this. And that is because it will influence how the school manages and to get the label. So it is important to submit a number of school practice evidence and case studies in the application. As you can imagine, once you become aware, you start carrying along, for instance, a mobile to take photos and videos as you are doing an event or an interesting STEM lesson, so that you can upload them to either a school evidence or a case study on the application process. And on screen, we're seeing here that when you contrast the two, it is important to distinguish which is which, because this was something that was really not so trivial in the process of application. So as we see here, we have that the school evidence is simply a proof to the answers in the self-assessment form that is submitted at the end. And it's also it showcases the activities that generally refer to the present scholastic year or the previous scholastic year, quite recent. And for the case study, that would simply be a short report or story of best practices worthwhile sharing, and they would tend to refer more to the distant past. In this way, the case studies could serve also to build up a portfolio of previous tasks leading on to the present situation in the school. And the languages could be in these 5 languages for both. So they could be in English, in French, in Portuguese, Lithuanian, or Serbian. But then for the school evidence, the supporting file can be in the national language. So for instance, this could be an attachment consisting, let's say, of a lesson plan that is in the national language. As a medium, the emphasis goes on the school evidence that has actual documents to showcase what is being documented in this evidence, consisting of any of these: press clippings, videos, events agenda, any photos that were taken, news on websites, and certificates of attendance, amongst others. Whereas for the case study, we are seeing that simply a description of the activity will in fact be enough. From the two, the emphasis goes to the school evidence because it is mandatory, we're seeing, unlike the case study. And overall, both the school practice evidence and the case studies will boost the school's overall score and increase the chances to receive the label at the end of this application process. Of course, they will be used when the school, therefore, will be judged to obtain a particular label. Now, when I was doing this, there would have been like these exemplars that I would have consulted on the portal so that I could then resort to working on those for my own school. And the school evidence is quite detailed, as you can see, showing the link to the different criteria that we have mentioned already. Among the items, the school evidence asks, as you are seeing on screen, for a description for the introductory part. Then there are keywords and difficulties encountered to do the task. As you are filling in this school evidence, there will be sections that need filling in with a word limit, and there will be drop-down menus that consist of the different criterion, for instance, and they are easily ticked off. The uploaded photo would need to be in JPG or PNG format, because if not, the system will not allow you to upload that particular school evidence. What I like about the school evidence, as Geraldine was already saying, is that you get feedback after it is published or after it has been received. And as you see here at the bottom, then there is a moderation comment that is included with your evidence. And that in particular will help the person uploading these resources so that from one evidence to the next, there is also an improvement in the upload of material. For the case study, one would start off again with a description of what the case study is all about in a few words, and then come the aims and the motivation, as well as lessons learned that are part of the uploaded information. And this would enhance the self-evaluation from experience in the case study as such. For instance, here we're seeing an event that linked our school with 3 other schools, and we involved parents in the coding of AstroPies for the International Space Station earlier on. Along the process, I found myself doing this kind of grid to keep track where our school was in the application. What you see here on screen is that there are the 7 key elements at the top and the 21 criteria on the side. Once the table is prepared, then it is very useful to ensure that on application, most are ticked off along the process. And what I was writing, for instance, was the name of the particular school evidence or case study as submitted to the portal. You can see also that either a school evidence or a case study may tick off more than one criterion. On the second page, for instance, because this document spanned across 3 pages, we have more of the criteria and what was uploaded for my particular school. And you become aware along the process what is lacking or what needs to be addressed. And that enhanced the idea at school that I was approaching different people before uploading other material, and we were discussing what particular event or lesson plan or similar items to address certain criteria. The table ends here. In fact, once we filled it all in, we realized that we probably had enough evidence and case studies for the first label application. So with this information that we are now passing on to you, I would like to encourage our audience to take the opportunity to visit the portal of the label and to learn more on this process, hopefully also aiming to start off this process and get one of these labels. I thank you for your attention, and I will now give control to Sarah to continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Stephanie, and good evening to everyone. So, your school have registered, you have uploaded a piece, school practice evidence, and even a case study maybe, and now your school feels ready to try out the self-assessment form. So what does this self-assessment form consist of? It consists of 21 questions, each addressing the 21 different criteria that make up the STEM strategy. Okay, and here I can show you one example of such a question. For example, this particular exemplar that we have put in this presentation relates to the project and problem-based learning at your school. So now it's important that the way you answer is backed up with the school practice evidence, in short SPs, that you have uploaded previously. Okay, so who can do the self-assessment form? As Geraldine mentioned previously, each school can have one school representative and various school contributors. The person who can do the self-assessment form is the school representative. So what happens if a school, for example, would like to change the school representative because maybe the school representative is no longer deployed in your school? In that case, do not worry, you can send an email to the STEM School Label at eun.org. And Ivana already wrote it in the chat, but don't worry because at the end of this slide, you also have the details, and we will shortly upload this presentation and this recorded webinar on our Scientix portal. So what happens after you have done the self-assessment form? So when you have done the self-assessment form, you will obviously receive a score. And based on this score, your school will either obtain a label or otherwise. But don't worry if you didn't obtain the label yet, because that means that you need to improve a little bit more your STEM school strategy, and after 3 months, you have the chance to redo the self-assessment form. After you do the self-assessment form, as my colleagues have previously mentioned, you will receive a personalized action plan. And this is the most enriching part, in my opinion, of this whole journey, because you will be provided with an eye-opener on the strengths and weaknesses of your schools and the way forward to keep on strengthening STEM education and ultimately try to increase the interest of our young children in STEM education. So, how long will the label last? The label expires after 18 months. However, after 12 months, your school can redo the self-assessment form once again to try to upgrade the label to either the proficient or the expert label. So some questions that arose whilst I was mentoring some schools in Malta were, but what is the difference between, or how can a school obtain a higher label other than the competent label? So let me explain in a nutshell the differences between the 3 grades. So the competent label is basically the label given to those schools who are showing that they are working on setting up their STEM strategy. The proficient label is given to those schools who show that they are targeting all the 21 criteria that make up a STEM school. The expert label is then given to those schools who are showing outstanding school practice evidence aligned to each of the 21 criteria that make up a STEM school. So where are we now? This is an infographic which is showing the statistics, the latest statistics regarding this project. As you can see, we have more than 3,000 schools who have joined the portal across 36 different countries, and more than 1,000 of them achieved the competent label. We have 12 schools which achieved the proficient label, whilst 5 schools are expert in the STEM strategy. And thanks to these schools, we can browse more than 11,000 school practice evidence, which you can browse once you register in the portal to have ideas on how you can keep on improving your STEM strategy. I am confident that most of you are already doing a great job when it comes to STEM education, but I am also even more confident that with this help of this portal, you will have more ideas on what you can do, and you can be more focused on your goals related to STEM education. So everything that we do is based on a choice, and behind that choice, there's always a reason of why we are doing something over another, why we chose to do something over other thing. So why should you embark on this journey? Apart from being provided with guidance on how you can improve your STEM strategy and being provided with personalized action plans that will help your school grow even further when it comes to STEM education, this portal provides high visibility and recognizes the schools that are willing to improve their STEM strategy. Apart from that, once you register, you will form part of a network of STEM schools willing to inspire STEM education. And last and not least, you also have the possibility to show this label in all the promotional informational material that you disseminate. So that's all for today. That's all for today from our behalf. Now we are await and kindly invite you to ask any questions that you have. I can see some questions in the chat. So for example, Maria is asking, how long is the expert label valid? Our labels are valid for 18 months. And I leave it up to you.
Thank
you
you
can
very
unmute
much.
yourself so that you can ask your questions. Thank you, Ivana.
Thank you very much, Geraldine, Stephanie, and Sarah, for your lovely presentation. I just wanted to say, in case someone didn't sign the signature list, to please do so you can also receive the certificate of participation. Now, as we have finished this presentation, we are moving on to our Q&A session. Now, since actually, Sarah, they don't have the ability to turn on their mics, I would like to ask everyone, in case you have any questions, if some parts of the presentation were not clear, you can feel free and ask your questions in the chat. We'll make sure to answer them all. And again, if we perhaps run out of time, you can always email us at STEM School Label @EON. Now, I know before there was a question about the date. Is there a deadline to apply for the STEM School Label? Stephanie, would you perhaps like to answer that one?
Is there? Could you please repeat, because I didn't hear all, please?
Apologies. So the question was, can we apply for the STEM School Label anytime? Is there a date or a deadline?
Oh, I think practically at the end of every month, there is the moderation that goes on. And I think the school will be informed. I don't know if the others want to add on to this.
I would like, actually, the school can apply anytime throughout the scholastic year. How long will it take? It will depend on the school, on the reflection process, to gather the evidence. Then any evidence submitted, as Stephanie has said, will be audited at the end of the year of each month by Scientix. And as I have just said, you can apply anytime. and how long it takes, it will depend on the school itself. But I would suggest that you spend quite some time gathering information and reflecting on the process itself.
Thank you very much, Stephanie and Geraldine. And also there, I think, might be a misunderstanding about the points earned when people submit their evidences. So how long do they last? Well, I just wanted to perhaps explain this myself. Basically, once you create your school's profile and once you start uploading the evidence, all of the evidence are going to be saved there, let's say forever. There is no way you can lose them. Even 5 years pass by, you will always have them there. So what you have to do in order to, let's say, 18 months have passed and you have lost your label. So what would you do then? In that case, you would need to upload, let's say, a few recent school practice evidence. This is because we also need some sort of evidence that you are still working on your STEM strategies, that you are willing to improve. And the second step would be to resubmit the self-assessment form. So basically, that is all you would have to do after these 18 months pass by.
In the questions I'm seeing, there's a question asking how many STEM activities are expected across school for STEM school label. If I'm not mistaken, Ivana, there is a minimum of getting 3 points, right, in each criterion. Is
exactly. Yes, that's correct, Stephanie. So once you are filling the self-assessment form, you would need to obtain the minimum of 3 points for each of the 7 key elements that we have mentioned. That's correct, Stephanie. Thank you. Also, there was a question, is the same STEM activity held across different classes, so from primary to secondary, count as only one activity, or even if it's done differently at primary and secondary levels? Perhaps if some of you would like to answer that. So is one STEM activity that is held from primary to secondary counted as one, or can you count as, let's say, as
I didn't have such a situation, to be honest, so I'm quite at a loss, to decide on this.
In my case, I presented evidence both from the primary and secondary. So as we regard ourselves as one whole school, so I submitted evidence across both sectors. However, in Malta, we have quite a number of schools which are either primary sectors or secondary sectors. There are a number of non-state schools which have both primary and secondary. In my case, I submitted evidence across for one label for the whole school. I don't know whether that answers the question.
Thank you, Geraldine. And sorry, Stephanie, did you have anything to add to this?
No, actually, I'm seeing another question which referred to something I presented, which maybe I can address now, please.
Of course, please go ahead.
The question is this: we have the first label, but did not find the contributor portal for the teachers to collaborate. I think that refers to what I was referring to, that at school, using the school system. So this is nothing on the portal for the STEM label. It is something that we did in-house, in our school. And we use Teams, for instance, to share a common folder so that is readily available to our teachers. So this is the way that we are promoting the collaboration between teachers at any time during the year, as it is appropriate for them to upload that particular material related to a particular either school evidence or a case study.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, for answering. Now, I also see a question from Milan saying, can we apply from Nepal too? I can say yes. All schools can apply if they wish. So again, if you have any questions, you're also free to email us, and we will be happy to help you. I also see a question from Rachel saying, is there a link where we can access the portal to see examples of case studies? Or will it only be visible to schools who register? Perhaps some of you would like to answer.
I suppose I was going, actually, since I have registered, I tried going back to the portal without logging in. If you don't log in, you don't have that facility. You have to register in order to be able to see examples of evidence and case studies. Registering will not take much, so just register the school, familiarize yourself with the portal, look at the examples, and take it on from there. Don't worry, you're not bound with any time to present the evidence or the case studies. So feel free to reflect, to familiarize yourself, and then take it on from there step by step.
And Rachel, registration is free of charge. And once you register, you're not committed to do anything further. So it's worth trying.
Thank you very much for answering. Now also I see one question from Essen. She says that her school is a secondary school, but in the same building they have also a primary one. Basically, it's the same headmaster. So Essen is asking, can I work for primary school to support having STEM school label? What would you answer to Essen?
Why not?
Exactly, Sarah. I completely agree.
Yes.
Then the next question is from Enid. With regards to the school website, can it be used as evidence, as the description is limited? Did you have any examples using your school website as evidence?
Yes, you just have to copy the link. The description has to be limited, but it doesn't mean that you can't use it itself as evidence.
Actually, myself, I really use the website because the website is a blog in itself in our case. So what I did, I went through the blogs and actually wrote a short summary of what the blog and what the blog was referencing to, and I listed that as evidence for my school to obtain the STEM school label. So definitely yes, especially if you blog your activities. And the blogging, I have found that it is a good way where you can look back and see any evidence, where you search for evidence that you can use to present for the STEM school label.
Thank you
And
very
in
much.
my case, I had a lot of schools that had the Facebook page, the school Facebook page, and they used to use that as evidence. The practice evidence that was evident in the page itself, they used to use the same link to upload it on the STEM school label portal.
Exactly, yes. Even in our school, we use the Facebook page as well.
Thank you very much for answering and for providing also the examples. I'm sure this way it's much clearer also for the teachers to also grasp these concepts, because I know at first it might seem a bit daunting to have all of these elements, all of these criteria, how everything works. But as you can see, our teachers really did a great job with their schools that managed to obtain the label. And that is why we also wanted to share with you their experience. Now, if you still have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. I just wanted to note, in case you still didn't sign the signature list, you can do so by filling in this form that I have just sent in the chat. Let's see if we have any questions. I think we managed to cover them all.
Ivana, I wanted to add that maybe for a start, the registration part would somewhat be a bit demanding, but once you get support on that, and you ask yourself, you are very, very helpful, and all of the Scientix team are always willing to help out. That is really encouraging, so that you continue with the process. Once you start uploading these evidences and case studies, it triggers a discussion on a school level, you tend to become more aware of what you are doing, where you are lacking. So you tend to try and address them, from one year to another, or from one term to another, it depends on the planning that is in place in a school. And, even in the schools that we were working in, even as we were discussing together in preparation for this event tonight, yes, we were saying that this is a good way on how the school can improve, but also on how to showcase the good practice already in place. So I think it's only the first time that will take a process and maybe take quite a lot of time. Once you have the thing in well organized, in my case, I organized the school by sharing a common folder for all teachers. Then you can stagger the work, and you can discuss if you are understanding well what the teacher submitted, so that you can fully showcase all behind a particular task, all behind a particular lesson, and it gives you an opportunity, therefore, to go into some detail and appreciate all the good practice already in place in most lessons in STEM, because after all, when you consider what lessons we have in STEM, it's mostly applied with a hands-on aspect, very interested, related to the outside world. And most probably teachers would have taken that for granted, before being aware that they can also showcase them in the school evidence. So it's a process until you get started. Maybe you need some clarification and support. But once you get the process, I'm sure that it will be an interesting journey, and it will also consolidate the good working relationship, not only between STEM teachers, but also between STEM teachers and the leadership team. So that is a very interesting aspect of the STEM label, which I highly encourage with our audience here.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, for those kind words. As we have a few minutes left, I also wanted to ask Sarah and Geraldine if you have any few words to say to the rest of the teachers.
I hope that today we managed to inspire you to increase the statistics of this infographic. And I can see a question here. I don't know if I can address it, Ivana.
Of course.
Anna is asking, our students took part in 1-month work placement in Spain and Portugal. It was Power and Erasmus Plus project. Can we describe it as SPE? If it is addressing one of the criteria that makes up a STEM school, yes, why not?
Exactly.
Most probably, Ivan, I wanted to say that most probably it could tick off more than one criteria, So it will be really helpful to add.
Yes, that's correct. So you can use one school practice evidence to connect to more criteria. You don't have to have each SPE for each of these 21 criteria. Thank you, Sarah. Also, Geraldine, would you like to say something?
As Stephanie said, actually our schools in Malta would need to write a school development plan. And my school found this process really useful in writing next year's school development plan, because not only have they got the plan, but they now have an action plan to put in place. So it is really useful. And I really do encourage you to participate and make the most of it, because your school will be getting quite a lot of feedback back, which will help in ensuring that you have a very good STEM strategy in place.
Thank you very much once again to Sarah, Stephanie, and Geraldine for their great presentation. And thank you all once again for taking your time to participate in this webinar. And I really hope that we will have more schools working on their STEM strategy. And as Sarah said, we hope we get these numbers up from this infographic. Thank you all once again, and I wish you a nice evening. Bye.